Hello everybody, this is Bradley from RaceBeacon and welcome to what will probably be one of the most controversial videos I make. This is the definitive F1 tier list for the teams in the 2023 Formula 1 season. In this video, we are going to be ranking the driver pairings. Not the drivers, the driver pairings. We have got 6 categories to fit in. We have brilliant, great, good, meh, poor, and get in the bin. So who's going to be put into this proverbial bin and who is going to be the greatest lineup that the world of motorsport has ever seen? Now, I think I have a fun game that we can do getting into this video. So if you want to, don't do it yet, but if you want to pause the video and go to the comments and put where you would put these teams. So we've got obviously Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, Alpine, McLaren, Aston Martin, Haas, AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo and Williams. Which category would you put those 10 teams in, those 10 driver pairings? Put that in the comments before you watch the video, or do it afterwards. You can cheat if you want, I don't really care, it's meant to be a fun game. And see how many of your options match mine. I think that'd be fun. If you want to give it a go, give it a go. If not, boo. So let's get right into it. We're going to start off with the first team in Williams. Obviously, Logan Sargeant is a rookie for this year. He had a decent year in Formula 2 and he definitely has some talent. I'm interested to see what he brings to the grid. I'm not expecting anything too special, but I am expecting a step up on what Mazepin was. So he's going to be a higher level than we saw from Mazepin, I can fairly confidently say. But I'm going to be, I'm going to be blunt here. It's Williams, their team at, the bottom of this list. They're not going to have the best driver lineup. And Alex Albon, he was pretty poor in Red Bull. He's not set the world alight, particularly at any point during his career. I don't think he has the potential to be a world champion like a lot of the drivers on this grid. So we're going to put Williams. Bear in mind, they have a rookie and a semi-experienced driver in Albon. He's a few years into his F1 career now, but they are going into poor. We're putting Williams into poor. And I think this is a fairly safe one. And I don't think I need a lot of explanation to this. Logan Sargeant is going to be a decent Formula 1 driver. Alex Albon is an okay Formula 1 driver. And that's really the most you can say about it. I'm not confident enough to put them into meh before seeing how Logan Sargeant actually performs. So maybe going into next year's video, if they have the same lineup, we might move them up to meh or good. It depends how good they are. So next up we're going with Alfa Romeo, and I know this is a little bit out of order, but I didn't want to start too negatively in this video. We've got Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu. Now, for me, I'm going to be brutally honest, it's between meh and poor. Valtteri Bottas, on his day, is a really good driver. Guanyu Zhou on his day is an okay driver. So, given, I think, Bottas being in this team and how good he genuinely can be, he put in some phenomenal laps, some really good races last year. I think that is just edging them into the meh category. So they're a little bit higher up than Williams. I think that's fairly safe to say. And I don't think many people disagree with me on that one. Zhou Guanyu obviously is the weaker of the two drivers, but you never know. He's progressing as a driver. He's only a couple of seasons into his F1 career. He's only going to get better. And Valtteri Bottas, I don't know, he seems the most laid back and happy he's ever been in his Formula 1 career. So maybe the pressure being out of Mercedes now, another year at Alfa Romeo, it might allow him to build on and just become a bit of a better driver. He's more confident. So we might see some better performances. That's my thinking. I've put them into meh. Right then, next up, AlphaTauri. And this one might be quite unpopular because I know I know how much the internet at times really does love a bit of Nick de Vries and a bit of Yuki Tsunoda, but I'm sorry here, they're getting in the bin. These two have to go in the bin for me. I just don't think this is a particularly good driver lineup. You've got Nick de Vries, who, what's he, like 27 now? Hang on, I'm going to Google it. Yeah, he's 28. He's older than I thought. He's 28. He's actually older than what okay. Calm down. So we have a 28-year-old Nick de Vries and, of course, Yuki Tsunoda coming into his 3rd season in Formula 1 now. I don't think this is a good lineup. I don't think this is a good lineup one bit. Yuki, we've seen at times he was able to compete with Gasly, and Gasly for me is in no world a championship winning driver. So for me, Tsunoda is on a slightly lower level than Gasly, and I don't see Gasly ever competing for a world championship. And Nick de Vries, at his age, he's just not going to do it. Sure, he got a Formula E championship a couple of seasons ago, but that was in the season where they had a complete lottery on the grid. The qualifying format was complete luck. It was basically a reverse championship qualifying format, and with track evolution on those street circuits, he was just guaranteed. It was a complete lottery, and he happened to win it. So, you know what? Well done, Nick de Vries. You have to do well to win the Formula E Championship, especially that year, because it was absolute chaos. But I'm not going to add much merit to his driving ability because of that championship. And Yuki Tsunoda, like I said before, he's not a championship winning driver. Nick de Vries, categorically not either, I don't think, even though he is technically a world champion. So next up we have what I'm going to be referring to this year as the Suck My Balls Honey team at Haas. We have Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen. Now, in their prime, if this was a driver lineup 5-6 years ago, I'm comfortably putting them into good, because that is a solid driver lineup. Obviously, Nico Hülkenberg's still looking to get that first podium. Still, not sure that will come at Haas. It might take a bit of a wild race for that. And Kevin Magnussen as well, whose form really did dip in the second half of the 2022 season. First couple of races, he did really well. He picked up some good points, and it definitely helped carry the team through the year, keeping them in a decent constructor's position. But I think this year they're going to go into the meh category. Of course, Nico Hülkenberg's had a couple of years out the sport now. He's going to need some time to readjust. Sure, he's had the simulators, he's had, you know, the odd Grand Prix or two, a few practice sessions to try to keep him up to scratch, but he's going to need time. He's not going to come in and just immediately pump it out. And you could say, yeah, sure, he did at Silverstone when he came in as a reserve and he did really well, but I believe that was a cosmic fluke that somehow happened. As a whole, through the course of the season, Hülkenberg is going to need time. And I think they're going to be a good vibe team. Realistically, I'd like to put them a little bit higher than Alfa Romeo, than that driver pairing of an informed Bottas and a potentially progressing Zhou Guanyu. But there's only a certain amount of categories. I could set up like 100 categories and put them on an exact score. That's a bit too much for a YouTube video. I'm going to put them here, but let's make a little note of they're probably, I would rank them a little bit higher than the Alfa Romeo guys. And I'm definitely not going to put them down in the poor section with Albon and Sargent, because there's literally a rookie in that team, and Albon, he's an okay F1 driver. He's probably a similar-ish level to these two, but because they have a rookie, they're going to go a little bit lower down. So next up, we have Aston Martin, and now this is a team that I cannot wait to see out on track this year. They've just released a livery today, and I think it looks pretty good. I'm hating how much exposed carbon is on these new liveries. Let me know what you think of that down in the comments. I'm sure probably quite a few people agree with me that there's way too much. But with the Aston Martin boys, I'm expecting good things from them this year. You have Fernando Alonso, who, even if he stays on last year's form, obviously he's getting older, so he's not going to get quicker anytime soon. But he, in 2022, put in some phenomenal performances. Think back to Austin, where he had a heavily damaged car and still fought his way back up into the points. He is still a top quality driver, and I would still put him top 5 in the grid. Honestly, I don't even think it's unfair to say that. And Lance Stroll as well. I flip-flop on Lance Stroll the most often out of any driver on the grid, I think, because sometimes I sit there and go, wow, he's actually all right. And then other times I watch him and go, wow, his racecraft's terrible. He keeps crashing into his teammate and he's really slow. It varies track by track with him, but he can be a good driver. Let's say he can consistently be a decent driver. I'm happy to put Alpine into the good column. Obviously, Alonso's doing a lot of heavy lifting. Let's say you chuck in like a Hülkenberg, Bottas into the Aston Martin team. They are going to move down to meh. But with Alonso, I think that is just propping up Stroll. You know, it's just sort of carrying him up into the next section as a team. And now we have McLaren. We're into the top half of the 2022 Constructors Standings. And this is where it might get a little bit more controversial. Now, we have Lando Norris, who, again, I would probably put him as a top 5, top 6 driver on the grid, and I don't think that's too controversial. And Oscar Piastri, who is one of the most hotly anticipated rookies to enter the sport for about 3 seasons. And I think that was proven enough by the fact that 2 teams claimed him as their own. We're not going to go back to that. But Oscar Piastri, I think he's going to be a decent rookie. He'll need a couple of races, obviously, to get his eye into the car, to get his eye into the season, how Formula 1 works. Hopefully it won't be a Stoffel Van Dorn situation where he's sort of, I don't want to say hit a talent wall, that seems a little bit harsh, but just the machinery in Formula 1 didn't suit him as much as it did in the junior categories. That's what we saw with Stoffel Van Dorn. Hopefully we don't get that with Piastri, because I'm also a McLaren fan. But McLaren, I'm going to put in the same category with Aston Martin, and it feels like I keep in my mind juggling whether they're ahead, whether they're even, or whether they're slightly below Aston Martin. I think an argument can be made for any of them. Lando Norris, I mean, if you give him the right car, he's going to win a championship. He's going to win a Drivers' Championship, given the right car. Oscar Piastri, if he hits the ground running, should do very well. He should do better than Ricciardo, I think, because the car just fundamentally didn't suit Ricciardo, and his whole tenure at McLaren was just awful. Norris and Alonso probably on fairly similar pegging at the moment, and I don't know. I mean, based on what we've seen of Piastri, I'd say he's probably, even as a rookie, coming in around Lance Stroll territory, because I think he has a higher ceiling than Lance Stroll, and maybe he can reach that in the latter half of the first year, let's see. So I'm putting them even for now, and honestly, I think you can make an argument for if they're above, below, or dead on even. Now, next up, we've got Alpine, and I'm going to be honest, when I look at this driver pairing of Ocon and Gasly, there's one word that comes screaming into my head, and it's meh. I'm sorry, these guys are both race winners, but I just don't rate them that highly. Alonso was very clearly faster than Ocon. He only got outscored by Ocon over the course of 2022 because of reliability issues and just horrendous luck at times. So that's doing a lot of heavy lifting for Ocon. He got very lucky last year a few times. Lucky to get a win as well. Same story with Gasly. They were both fluke races. They weren't the quickest car out there on the whole track, putting in a great performance. But you know, they did well to win the race, don't get me wrong. You know, they've picked up those races. They had deserved race wins. But Gasly stunk at times in 2022. He did not put in good race performances whatsoever. And same story goes for Ocon. Ocon, I think, might outscore Gasly over the season. I think Ocon is at a slightly higher level than Gasly. But I'm happy to put these guys into meh. But saying that, let's go into the top three, which is the one that the majority of you guys will be supporting and the one that you want your teams to do the absolute best on. Which means let the hate comments fly in. I'm going to start off with Ferrari. Obviously not a good... They had a good start. They had a good start, but a absolutely horrendous middle and end to the 2022 season. Carlos Sainz, actually, he had a pretty poor start to the season. There was a couple of instances, a couple out of his control, a couple of mistakes that he made, but he sort of stopped doing that as the season went on. I will put these guys into good. Charles Leclerc absolutely can win a championship, no doubt about it. Carlos Sainz, I think with Leclerc as a teammate, I'm not sure he will win a championship because I just think Leclerc has more raw pace and over the course of a year he's going to outscore him. But we need to see more consistency from Leclerc. And that is why we're going to see some teams in brilliant here and some teams in great. We need more consistency from Charles Leclerc. He knows it. He is so harsh on himself. He knows it. And, you know, he's harsh for a reason. On raw pace, these guys fall into brilliant. But we're talking over the course of a season here. I'm going to have to downgrade them to great. Next up, we have Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. And I've really struggled with this one because these are two absolutely phenomenal drivers. But we haven't seen how that team dynamic is going to work over the course of a season. Because I think they're going to be pretty even on pace in 2023. Maybe Hamilton might have a slight edge, but, you know, George, he's at his second year at Mercedes now. He's going to up the pace. He's more comfortable with the team. He's more comfortable with the car. The team know what George is looking for from his car now, and, you know, maybe there will be elements of designing a car that suits George as well as Lewis and trying to find a sweet balance. And that could swing into George's favour. It could swing into Lewis's favour. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to put these two guys into the brilliant column. I mean, you've got a 7-time world champion, and you've got a driver who you know, if Mercedes are good over the next 5 years, let's say, he's probably going to pick up about 3 championships, because he's going to be the #1 driver at Mercedes. He probably will pick up championships as long as that Mercedes car is good. Hamilton, he had some poor races in 2022, but... like, fundamentally, he's still a brilliant Formula 1 driver. It's the same with Charles Leclerc, honestly. I'd put these 3 drivers, Verstappen, Leclerc, and Hamilton, all on fairly equal pegging. They are some absolutely phenomenal Formula 1 drivers. So the raw pace they have is just immense. So a lot of this is actually coming down to the teammates. I feel like George Russell might be a slight one-up on Carlos Sainz. I think Russell has a little bit more of the raw pace, and he's also less prone to mistakes than Sainz has been. So for me, that just edges them into the brilliant category. And now, let's get the hate comments ready. Be ready in the comment section to abuse me, because this is going to cause some controversy. Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, the Red Bull pairing, it's gonna go into great. I'm sorry, it's gonna go into great, because for me, like I've said, look, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, phenomenal drivers. The best on the grid at the moment. Sergio Perez, he's probably a top 10 driver, but he's at the bottom of that top 10, and he was very consistently 20 or 30 seconds off of Verstappen over the course of a full uninterrupted race last season. He's dragging that team down, and I'm not saying necessarily it's just Checo's fault. The car at Red Bull will probably suit Max more than it suits Checo, and Red Bull are smart for designing cars that way because Max is their star boy. Why would you design a car for the second driver when you could guarantee drivers' championships by designing it for your incredibly talented young driver? And that's what they've sort of been doing a little bit. Perez did voice some annoyance at how the car was maybe going away from him through the development cycle in 2023. I also feel like there's actually a little bit of tension in the team. Obviously, we saw it a couple of times last year. I'm not sure this is the most harmonic team going. Equally, I don't think this one will be either if we're in a championship fight. I'm not sure Hamilton and Russell will be the best of friends come the end of the season. Weirdly, I think Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, I think they could withstand a championship battle. I don't see that one erupting as much as the other two. But yeah, for me, Sergio Perez just drags Red Bull into the great category. So let me know how many of your choices matched mine down in the comments section if you did decide to do it. I'm really interested to hear what you guys come up with. And, you know, if you really disagree with me somewhere, let me know. I am more than happy to have this debate in the comments, and I would absolutely love to just talk to you guys a little bit. So, yeah, it's good to be back with another video. We're going to be ramping up the content now as we approach pre-season testing in just about, what, 2 weeks' time? Something like that. So we are getting so close now to the cars being shipped out to Bahrain. That 3 days of pre-season testing. I cannot wait for it. But as ever, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps out. And we are gearing up to what should be a really good year this year. Can't wait to talk to you guys more in some streams that we're going to have coming up. And, you know, overall, I hope you all have a great day and see you next time.